and I know where it's at. I'm usually like, where'd it go on my computer? Erica's like the other half of my brain.
That's how I feel about Rachel. She was my assistant, but hi, Meeple.
Oh, there.
Joining. She was my assistant, but then she just is like a boss, and so now she's my director of operations. So she's like my right hand girl, but like she's the exact opposite of me. I am like scatterbrain, vision, ideas, and she's like numbers, execute, things like that. She's the one that hones me in. She's the one that's like, KC.
That's Erica
KC.
for me.
Yeah.
We have different business, but I'm like, I would fail without you. I don't know where stuff's at. And she creates and stuff, and I'm not creative. I'm not the creative mind. I can come up with ideas.
Yeah.
And then she designs. I'm like, I started that. It didn't look really pretty. Can you take it and fix it?
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's usually the best working dynamic is like two people that balance each other out, work really well together, but like each has their strengths and weaknesses. That's how you do it. That's how you do it.
And it's been great. We've had a great partnership as far as, and being able to do our own business, but
all right. Well, welcome, ladies.
Let's go.
Day 2 with KC.
So maybe a few ladies will pop on. Who knows? But we have some questions, I think.
And Meatball right here.
Yep.
And Meatball's with us again today. How cool is he? How old is Meatball?
Meatball is 7.
She
is 7. Yep. She gets sassier as she gets older.
Right.
That's what happened. So. All right. So let's just talk about a little bit about what we were talking about yesterday, and then kind of dive into some questions, and
love it.
We'll do that. So
love it.
Just kind of give a quick recap, KC, just a little bit about you and what you do, and you just tell people like this, what you do.
I love that. I love that. Okay. So my name is Casey, born and raised in Omaha, Nebraska, Midwest girl at heart. I am the owner and founder of Thriving On, which is an online nutrition and fitness company. I became a fitness professional through my own journey of my own struggles with relationship with food, disordered eating disorder, and a lot of different things in terms of like going through my own path. And like purely Thriving On was built off of the fact that I got really freaking pissed off with the current nutrition fitness industry, and like just wanting to do better for people and help them avoid the same mistakes and experiences that I personally went through. And a lot of people were really aligned with my mission. I thought this was going to be a lonely road, but then now we have a team of 8 people, potentially even more so now. We're hiring right now. And the team just keeps growing. And it's just very humbling to see that and have people believe in that. It's really awesome. And so what we do at Thriving On is we help people go from surviving to thriving through nutrition, fitness, and mindset. And we talked about this yesterday, and it's just teaching people that nutrition and fitness is not a sacrifice. It is not something that is like, oh, my doctor said I have to do it, or like, oh man, like, can't believe I have to eat this broccoli again. It's literally the tool to help you unlock your potential within life. Like you are your foundation, the nutrition and fitness and also your mental health and your health in general. You are the foundation of everything that you want to achieve in life. So if you want to achieve more in life, reach your full potential, we have to take a step back and take a look at you. Right. And until you make that mind shift of it's not sacrifice, it's not taking away from my life, it's actually helping me live my life to the fullest potential. Like, that whole transition is where like we really thrive in, and what we help our clients realize is that this can be done in the right way. This can be done in a constructive way. We don't have to believe in diet culture bullshit. Like a lot of us have been conditioned to like know and understand and everything like that. So that's what we do.
Awesome. All right. Well, I know Mackenzie probably has a question. Do you want me to ask it, girl, or what?
Let me hear it.
Oh, there she is.
Hello, beautiful.
Okay. I feel like my biggest thing through all of this is still not having that guilty conscience. Like, it is so hard for me. Like, my boyfriend just on Sunday was like, I really want Chinese. And I had to like debate it all morning. And finally we just got in the car and I was like, okay, we're going. Like, it was just like, I had to literally think about it all day. What am I going to eat? What am I going to have? How am I still going to reach? Because I'm so close to my ultimate goal that I was like, how do I not derail this, but like still enjoy going out and just getting Chinese and not even thinking about what I'm eating in a way, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, so this goes into this kind of, let's take a step back and kind of take a look at or talk about what we talked about yesterday, right? What kind of life do you want to live? Do you want to live a life that you're scared to eat food and
No.
not be able to eat Chinese, right? Okay, cool. So then it goes in the standpoint of if the methods going in are unsustainable, the results will also be unsustainable. How you do it matters. Right now, while you're trying to progress, your goal in this moment is to lose weight, right? We do have to dial things in. Yes, we do have to make trade-offs. I like to call them investments. They're not sacrifices, they're investments to our goal. But you also have to take a step back and be like, is this constructive? Is this going to create a very sustainable method where I still keep my relationship with food intact? I'm still living my life so it's sustainable. Like, nobody wants to do all this work and burn out at the very last second because you have this pressure on your shoulders that you have to be perfect and you can't live your life. Like, you can have Chinese food and still be able to get results. That one moment is not going to kill you. And so, like, what I would do is encourage you to shift your mindset to, how can I have Chinese food while still having results? How can I live my life while still getting results? Right? Because again, this is a tool to help you live your life, not restrict you. You want to feel like you have freedom, not being trapped in the kitchen in the gym. Right? And so I would just take a step back and take a very honest look at, who do you want to be? Because we also have to take a second and think about, okay, so you want to keep this for life, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, ideally. Nobody wants to do all that work and get it all back. Okay, cool. So now you have got these results. What now? What do? You keep going, right? The calorie deficit doesn't go anywhere. I mean, like, the calorie deficit does go somewhere. Like, you go back up, sorry. Right. But the habits, everything that you did, the lifestyle that you had going in still stays there. You can't go back to what you were doing before.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So take a hard look at like, what kind of lifestyle am I living? What decisions am I making? And if they are restrictive and you're like, I can't maintain this person long term, you need to take a look at your methods. You need to make an adjustment. Right. That's like a huge mistake that I made. I've had 6-pack abs. I've been ripped. And I think that there are some people that genetically it comes super easy for them. And so it's super sustainable. I think for me personally, I don't think a 6-pack abs is super sustainable for me, but I think being a little bit leaner is. But the way that I did it was so disordered. It's not even funny. And so I had to backtrack and gain about 30 pounds to revert gut health issues, hormonal issues, relationship with food and everything like that. And I had to start at ground zero. And then I had to rebuild that foundation and do it in a method that I could do for life. So don't be me. Start
Oh,
that
sounds
now.
like me. It sounds
Yeah.
like me, doesn't it, Victoria? It
Yeah.
sounds like me. Mhm.
Yeah. So just like, anytime, this is my favorite trick. My favorite trick of all time, right? Is whenever you get stuck in a moment where you can't make a decision or you don't know what to do, instead of asking somebody else what to do, I mean, still ask your coach, because your coach understands you. That's their job, right? But the other thing, because eventually with this comes independence, you're going to have to do this on your own. So getting in the habit of doing this now is going to be amazing. Don't ask other people, because they don't live the life that you have. They don't have the priorities they have. They don't have the same journey as you. They don't have the same goals. They don't have the same priorities. Like, don't be asking them. Ask yourself. But more specifically, ask your future self. That person that you see yourself as, that ideal person, that person that you're like, okay, hang a hat on that person. Let's go. Ask them.
Okay.
What would they do? Right? Because it takes the emotions out of the way. It's not about what you want at this moment. Because like, our current emotions can be completely off. Like, I don't know about you, but I've definitely had moments where I'm like sitting there crying and I'm like, I don't even fucking know why I'm crying right now. Like, what's going on? Like, our emotions aren't always reality. So we can easily derail ourselves because we can't be objective. But if we ask our future self, it's not about how we feel at this moment. It's about what they need, that person needs. And then you get extreme amount of clarity and then you do that. So it's like, okay, do I get Chinese today or not? It's like, okay, it's not about me. It's about my future self. What would she do right now? What would she be most proud of right now? And then you go with that. Boom, fixed. That also works for almost everything in your life, by the way, too.
Why am I paying a therapist? Just kidding.
No, stick with therapy. Therapy's cool.
We all need therapy.
Awesome.
We all need a little mental loving.
right?
Yeah.
Fix yourself. I always say that. I'm like, you can't fix
Yeah.
yourself. You need somebody outside, but you need the right people.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's true, because it's like you ask a friend, that wants you, they don't know your journey. Like you said, they don't know that journey, and they want you to go out, like on the weekend or something. And they're like, oh, come on, it's not that big of a deal. It's not, then you got to really start thinking of what it is. Cause easily, your friends can, not that they mean to harm, but they can easily kind of push you into a little.
Oh yeah.
like-
Dealing with peer pressure is a whole nother monster.
Oh, yeah.
I swear during the holidays, that's all I talk about is dealing with peer pressure with people. Cause that's like the
Yeah.
biggest thing. It's hard. It's hard to
Yeah,
deal with that.
It is.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and that, and that one thing I've discovered, and Casey, tell me your thoughts on it. Like a lot of times people want you to be in the same place they're at, because they're not, like, you are willing to change, and and I've seen this in my business because of, where I was at, and I wanted to do more, but there's this comfortable place where everybody, all these friends are going like, oh my God, yeah, you're right. It's really hard. People aren't paying this, or, like eating the same thing, everybody feels comfortable around the same people. So then when you are trying to be better, you keep getting drawn back into those people that make you feel comfortable, because you don't want to get outside of it. So it is hanging
Yeah.
out with the people that you want to be like, and where you
Yeah.
will end up losing some friends. You'll lose some people in your life because you have to let them go in order to better yourself type.
Yeah. So definitely, there's definitely like that is pretty prevalent. And that's a huge struggle with a lot of people, is that they're changing and therefore the people around them aren't changing. And so there's many different things that could happen that could derail somebody. One, it could be people are seeing that and they become resentful, because it's like, okay, if they change, what does it mean for me? What about me? Right. This happens a lot of times with spouses. They subconsciously kind of sabotage their spouse, because they're like, if this person improves and I don't, what does that mean for me? And so they're the ones that are like, oh, come on, just have dessert with me. Or just like, no, you can have a drink with me. Why are you doing that? It's just like, they don't mean to do it. Sometimes they can be dicks, but like majority of the time they
But they
don't
do.
mean to do it. They just subconsciously just don't
Yeah.
want to be left out. Right. And so the other thing is just lack of communication. You'd be surprised how crappy people are at communication, right? Like if you're going to a family event or going out the bar with your friends and you recently are like, I'm going to change my life. I'm going to prioritize my health, so show myself some self-respect. Let's go. Right. And you do not communicate that to your family or your friends. They're going to expect the exact same behavior as you did before.
Mhm.
Right. So people walk in, they're like, I'm not going to drink. I'm no longer drinking. And then they go out to a fucking bar, which is like, if you're not going to drink, don't go to a bar. Right. Like, but like, if you go out to a bar and somebody's like, hey, have a drink with me. And people are like, don't you know I'm not supposed to be drinking? Why are you throwing that shit at me? And they're like, what the fuck? What is
Yeah.
going on? And immediately they're thinking that's disorder as fuck. And I'm worried about them.
Mhm.
Versus if they just came out and they're just like, hey, dude, like, I'm trying to prioritize my life right now. Like coming to your family or your friends and just be like, I'm trying to prioritize myself right now. I'm trying to be my best self. I'm trying to do these things. And I would just like your support. Right.
Yeah.
And this is how I would like to see that support. Is that something that we can work together on? Right. They're going to love that. They're going to feel a part of it. They're going to feel like, oh my gosh, this is so mature. This is so productive. Of course, I love this person. I want them to do their best. And so they're going to show up and do that. So it's like, okay, poor communication. You need to communicate that to people. And then I think lastly is boundaries, right? People just like, people need boundaries. Boundaries is amazing, right? You can set boundaries with other people and they can start respecting that, right? Sometimes people just don't set boundaries. And so like other people just take advantage of it. So like my boundary is that I don't appreciate when people throw drinks in my face. I'll drink. I don't do it all the time, but I don't appreciate it when people throw drinks in my face. And I usually am just like, hey man, I appreciate you trying to get me drinks. I really love that. But you know what? I can get my own drinks. I really do appreciate it. Now they know my boundary. Okay, great. They're going to respect that. If you don't communicate your boundaries, they're not going to respect that. And then you're going to get pissed off. And then it just gets a whole different like monster right there. So, but like sometimes, yeah, people can be dicks, right? Do you mind if I share my secret?
Sure.
When somebody's being a dick with peer pressure. I've only used it a couple of times, but I've also had a couple of clients use it too, and it works great. So let's say that you're out with drinks. That's a really big one. People get really peer pressure with drinks, right? And they're like, oh, come on, have a drink. Come on, have a drink. And you've communicated like your boundaries. You say, hey, I really appreciate it. Please don't, like, I'm good. And they still are persistent. They're still being very, very rude and crossing your like boundaries. This is what I do. I'm like, what are we in fucking middle school? Like, are you trying to peer pressure me? Can we please be adults right now? All of a sudden they're like, okay. And sometimes they're like, gosh, man, I was just joking. It's like, no, you're not. You're being fucking immature right now. Let's just call it, like, say what it is. Like, just call people out, dude. Like there's nothing like, I feel like we are conditioned, especially as women, to please other people. There's nothing wrong with having boundaries. A lot of the times that we look up at people and we're like, oh, I really fucking love that person. They're dope. Usually they're the people with the boundaries, right? Usually they're the people that stand up for themselves. When we're all like, oh, I want to be like that. It's like, you can easily do that. You can easily do that. Nobody, like, people actually really do respect those that communicate their boundaries and stand their ground. That actually like really does demand a lot of respect, which a lot of people are worried. Like, are people going to hate me or not? It's like, I don't, like, who cares? You're going to be happy. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
So, I'm also eating right now. I hope you guys don't mind.
Oh, okay.
I figured you
I
guys
was
wouldn't
shoving
mind.
food down my throat before I get.
Yeah.
Like, she calls
We
me
eat
up and
here.
I'm
We eat
eating,
here.
trying to get it in.
Yeah.
So
I can urgent care for 2 hours.
how do you, when your clients are struggling with like sugar cravings or those sweet tooths, which probably have to do with emotional eating altogether, like, talk a little bit about that, I guess, because that's some of the ladies in my group, that's what they were talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, definitely a lot of times it is stemmed from emotional eating. Sometimes it's a different emotional response. Somebody's feeling an emotion, they don't like the emotion, so they lean into, let's say, sugar or something like that to feel another emotion. While it's temporary, they still feel something different, right? And so it's like, okay, cool. If that is happening truly, then we have a stress and then we have a response to that stress. Let's replace that response to that stress with something else. Right. But like, I skipped a step. The first thing is whenever you're trying to make change, especially when it comes to relationship with food and things like that, you need to create awareness. Most people aren't even aware.
Right.
They're just like, I just have sugar cravings. I'm just addicted to sugar. I'm like, nah, you are not addicted to sugar. You just have a poor coping mechanism. That's it. And they're like, oh, I never even thought of it that way. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. So like, you don't know what you don't know. Right. And so the creating awareness as to, is this an emotional response to like, is this a response to an emotion that I don't like? Am I feeling bored, lonely, scared, depressed, whatever it is? And am I responding in a constructive manner or a destructive manner? If I'm responding in a destructive manner, it's like, okay, cool. Like, coping with stress can be great. Sometimes people move, sometimes people meditate, sometimes people do therapy. So it's great. So let's replace that response with something else. Right. And I always tell my clients this is like, don't fucking judge what you replace it with, as long as it's constructive. Like for me, sometimes when I get stressed, your girl is jumping in the car, going to Target and going into Dollar Tree section and buying some things. And I don't know why, and I'm not going to judge it, but I like it. Right. It makes me feel all excited, like a little kid. I'm like, I just got this really cute Christmas decoration for like $5 freaking. This is great. And then I move on with my day. Who cares? Like,
feel good.
Like, yeah. So it's like creating awareness. I'm feeling this emotion. I want to eat. Is this actually what I want to eat? Or am I like stress eating right now? If I'm stress eating, what's my new path? Right. And then the more that you do that, the more that you create that self-awareness and start doing that new movement pattern, right? Or just like lifting or anything like that, you have a new movement pattern, you create that habit. It's going to get easier with time. But like that extreme amount of self-awareness and extreme amount of honesty is usually the hardest part. Most people don't like having that figurative mirror in their face of owning their shit. Right? Like nobody, like that's a lot of reasons why people get super emotional with food and things like that, is because they don't want to own what they're doing. They don't want to realize they're the one that is doing the harm. Right? Not outside circumstances. It is not your boss. It's not your husband. It's not your kids. It's not the donuts. Like nobody threw 10 donuts in your mouth. It is you.
Mhm.
Right. And so that extreme amount of awareness and ownership is seriously the hardest part to creating a better relationship with food. But it is honestly, like, if you have the courage to do so, it is empowering, because all of a sudden you go from a victim mindset to a hero mindset. All of a sudden you're a damsel in distress and everybody has to save you, which, a reminder, nobody's going to fucking save you. Nobody is going to be able to step in your shoes and do the things that you need to be doing. It's ultimately up to you. Yes, you will have a support system, but it's ultimately up to you to do the job. Right. And so once you start taking ownership, heroes take ownership, whether it's good or bad. Every story that we look at, like on TV or anything like that, the hero takes ownership and then they're able to do great things. And we get really inspired by that. It's like, okay, cool. We have to do that within our own life. Right. The other thing that you can take a look at with sugar cravings is blood sugar. Blood sugar might be dropping, which may be stem from poor relationship with food. Just because a lot of times people get busy or stressed and then they don't eat, which is in a form of an emotional response to food, emotional eating. And so they go through the whole day, don't eat. By the end of the day, their blood sugar just drops, just crashes. And then they're like, okay, cool. So blood sugar crashes. What gets the blood sugar up high really, really fast? Sugar. What? Who would have thought? And so you go for the sugar cravings at night, right? So replace that with eating throughout the day, making sure that you're eating foods that keep your blood sugar nice and even throughout the day. That may be the easy fix right there. You just address the blood sugar, right? Which also means that you might have to address the fact that you don't eat all day.
Yeah, absolutely.
You need to change that. But that typically like is an easy fix right there.
Yeah.
And then besides that, I think one of the other things is that people fear carbohydrates, especially women. And so carbs are amazing for women. Absolutely amazing, especially for those that are active, trying to build muscle, boost your metabolism, stress people as well. Like carbs helps reduce cortisol levels, right? It's amazing for stress people. Like low carb and keto is absolutely horrid for stressed women. It is not, it does not mix well for most women.
Saying that.
Yes. All right. And so if you're not eating carbs because you fear it, because diet culture bullshit convinced you that carbs is evil, which it's not, then you're going throughout the whole day, throughout everything, and you're not eating the nutrient that your body needs. And your body is really smart. It's going to crave a lot of times what it needs. So eat the carbs.
Yeah.
Eat the food.
I love the carbs.
Freaking food.
I know, right?
Carbs are amazing.
I'm eating
carbs right now.
Awesome. That was like a huge thank you, Jesus moment when they started talking about it's okay to eat more carbs, but now trying to convince people that it's okay. Like for me, I know, and for Erica, I know it happens to hers, is so like, what do you do like for people, okay, when you're trying to get them to track food or track, because tracking their food and having to increase. So a lot of people, obviously, when we do the reverse diet, right, that freaks people out.
Oh yeah.
So what is your, like, how do you help your clients understand that portion of it, even though it's like to be okay with, okay, we're giving you more food, I mean, I always tell Eric, I said, I know the reason, I just can't get it across to them, and you're trying to, you need to eat more food. It's okay to be patient.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. So, dude, I get it. I had to go through a huge reverse diet, and I was an extreme case where my reverse diet made me gain like 20 to 30 pounds. But I was an extreme case. Please understand, I was a very extreme case, and my health was so low that I didn't really go through a slow reverse diet. I had to go quick because I was desperate. So I gained a lot of weight during that time, and it was so fucking challenging. It was so challenging mentally. I cried a lot, I'll be honest with you. But I think
What
the
made you
first thing
trust
is
that
hearing it
process?
from somebody that's been through it. And also not only been through it, but also been through like a really bad case of it. From my own personal experience, it is the best fucking thing I've ever done. I would do it 10 times over, because I am now a person that I look in the mirror and I'm very, very happy with. When I was under eating, your food is more than just like calories. It's your medicine, what your brain needs, what your gut needs, what your productivity, everything, like the way that you present yourself in life, everything. It is your fuel. And so when I was eating super low calories, I couldn't think. I was cranky as fuck. I made everybody around me miserable. I couldn't do anything that I wanted to. I couldn't sleep. I was stressed. Anxiety, depression, eating disorder tendencies started coming back. I was just a shell of a person. I looked in the mirror and I didn't even recognize who I was. I was not proud of who I was. And so it's like, okay, cool. I can choose to keep living my life fucking miserable, or I can spend a very short period of time, it was like a year or two, in comparison to the rest of my fucking life. That is a very short period of time of putting in the work to do what is right, and finally get to a point where I can actually be very happy. I can be enjoyable to be around. I'm chasing after my goals. I'm living my life. I'm no longer fear my food or anything like that. It's like, choose your heart. That shit was hard. This shit was hard, but I feel 10 times better, and I would do it 10 times over. Right. Like one of our core tenets within Thriving On is like, we do things right. Despite being against the norm, despite taking it longer than what we want to, despite being harder than what we want to, we do things right. Right. Because like everybody wants to, like, I highly doubt anybody wants to live a shitty life. Right. People want to be a good person. Right. So just do what's right, not what's easy. I think the other thing is that convincing women that you don't have to shrink yourself to look better naked is another thing. Right. So a lot of times I ask this question to my clients. It's like, okay, great. So let's just say that tomorrow you wake up and you feel fucking great. You feel strong, you have energy, your libido is high, you feel sexy as fuck. You just feel on top of the world, mental clarity, you feel so productive. And also you look in the mirror and you're like, I look fucking fine. How would you be? Would you be happy? Fuck yeah. I'd be happy. Okay, cool. Here's the other thing. You gain 10 pounds. Would you still be happy? Yeah, I guess I would. Okay, great. So your goal is not the scale. Your goal is how you feel, how you look, how you think, everything like that. So why in the fuck are you getting so upset about the weight on the scale? Because it's not important to you. And they're like, ah, fucking shit. Okay, cool. Right? So like pointing out the obvious is like, your goal is not the weight on the scale. Your goal is to look good and feel good and love the way that you think. So stop wrapping your head around a stupid fucking number that really doesn't mean much in the long run. Like the number on the scale is probably one of the least accurate metric that you can keep track of through the whole process. It is just one number, right? And then ultimately, I think people are looking for a better relationship with the weight on the scale and tracking food, right? And so one of the things that people are going through is like they have to own their shit, they have to track their food, and it becomes very triggering. It's like, okay, cool. So if you want to create a better relationship with food and it triggers you every single time that you do it, do you run away from it and sweep it under the rug and not face it? Or do you face it? Do you kind of like exposure therapy, work through your emotions, create a better relationship with it, so that way eventually it doesn't invoke a emotional response and you're like, yeah, okay, I can't run away from it. It's like, exactly. right? So it's a very emotional time. Have a really great coach in your corner, because trust me, you will not be objective during this whole process. That's one of the things that if I could go back on, I wish that I had stayed with my coach during the whole process. I was like, I can do it on my own. It's fine. It
Yeah.
didn't go well. It didn't go well. Stick with your coach. They're going to be able to call you out on your shit when you get super emotional. Trust them, trust the process, and just know that despite going through this somewhat scary time, the potential of your best self on the other side is 100% worth it. Anything worth doing in life is hard. So,
yeah, perfect. Thank you.
That was good. That was good. Yeah.
No doubt.
What do
I
you
don't
got?
have any others.
Yeah, most of mine were some of them were more on food stuffs and stuff like
Yeah.
sweets. I
I
mean,
like
you
food.
can
Yeah.
you hit on the sweets.
I mean, the late night snacking too. I know I have a lot of
Yeah.
ladies that do that, but that kind of goes with the emotional eating too. And like, you know, did you really eat enough for dinner? Like, did you, or were you waiting for that snack? Like, kind of like my daughter, she like eats her, you know, she eats really fast and then she's ready for her ice cream or whatever she has. And, you know,
yeah. Yeah. I mean, it can be emotional. Sometimes it actually can just be like logistical things. Like sometimes when people eat late at night, lack of sleep, like just makes you a little snacky,
yeah.
right? It raises up
That's
the
Jeff.
ghrelin, ghrelin levels, which is your hunger hormone when you don't sleep a lot. And so you start taking on, like, honestly, people who are sleep deprived take on the tendencies of an obese person, simply just because their hormones, like your hormones dictate your hunger levels. It makes you a little bit snackier. So you start snacking a little bit more at night. The other thing is that, let's say that you often wake up in the middle of the night to eat and you're like, I don't know why I'm doing this. It might be your blood sugar is fucking tanking. Eat carbs, eat like a complete meal, eat like at least protein and carbohydrates. Try to make those carbohydrates slow digesting, and your blood sugar is going to stay even throughout the night. So that way you don't wake up in the middle of the night and have to eat something again and potentially put yourself in a position where you're not following through with your nutrition goals. That's another really good one. Sometimes it is emotional eating. Sometimes it is that people think that it's emotional eating. They're like, I don't know why I keep getting snacky. I don't feel like I'm stressed. I'm like, it's not emotional eating. You're just not eating carbs before you go to bed. So just
Yeah,
eat that. And they're like, oh my gosh, it's the best thing ever. And I'm like, cool.
Yeah.
So give us a couple tips that you give like your clients when they're dealing with, like you did mention earlier, like on what you say to yourself, like something that, people, I get a lot of people that are just, it's like everything is always stressful. Life is just stressful.
Yeah.
I'm not sticking to this. I'm not sticking to that. And it's just that same excuse of I was so busy and so stressed. What are a couple things you tell your clients to maybe do or say to themselves? I mean, you do affirmations or something that kind of gets them back on track so that they go, we talked about prioritizing ourselves. Obviously that's true. I mean, if we're not, having an empty tank, and that's one thing I always tell everybody, exactly kind of what you said yesterday, is like, putting, people always want to put their kids first, their family first. And I'm like, no, put you first, because ultimately you elevate everybody else if you put yourself first, because you're telling them that you matter so much to me. I need to take care of myself so I can be here for you, type of thing. Right. So for people who are, every day they feel like that's all they do is give, and they struggle with pulling themselves back and doing that. What are some things that you have your clients do to work on too?
Yeah. Okay. So, a lot of times, what we first discuss is like, we touch back in the future self. I think it also goes into, it's kind of like another method of like your big why.
Yeah.
Right. Every single time that like things happen, you derail self, which will freaking happen. You are a human being. You're going to have moments in your life where it's going to be like, I don't know what to do. You're a human being. It just happens. That's why you have a freaking coach in your corner to help you work through that, because like most people like don't have a weight loss problem. They have the weight keeping it off problem. And so it's the more the long-term thing. So your coach is there to help you avoid that self-sabotage. So you just like walk through. It's like, okay, what would your future self do right now? Right? What's going on? Like what's going through your life? How would your future self address this? We can also go into kind of like a future self time audit, right? It's like, okay, let's write down what your future self would do during the day. What would they prioritize? How would they work out? How would they treat their people? How would they, how would the day look? What would they be spending time on and not? And then from there, once they get extreme clarity, they write down everything that they do in the day. And then they draw parallels, right? Am I doing what my future self would be doing? No, fucking cut it out. Right. Which goes into like a lot of times people feel stressed or overwhelmed because they lack clarity. Right. And so if you provide clarity as to exactly what they need to be doing, they no longer avoid doing the things that they need to be doing because they know exactly what to do and they do it. Right. So the whole thing just provides an extreme amount of clarity. Because here's the thing, the whole I'm busy or I'm stressed so I can't focus on my lifestyle or like my health is absolute bullshit. I'm going to call it out. Is it tough? Yeah, it is. But is it bullshit? Yes. There are so many high-powered women who have kids who are very successful and they still take care of themselves. They can do it. You can do it. Any mama is a fucking superhero in my mind. You can do it. Right. And so it's like, okay, if other people like you guys have done this, they can do it too. Right. So accepting that it can happen gets you out of a fixed mindset of like, I can never do this. I can never do that. I can never prioritize this. I will never have this time. It's like, no, you have coaches that practice what they preach. They do it. There's so many other women that do that too. Right. You can do it. And then you go into a growth mindset and it's like, oh, okay, I can do it. All I need to do is create clarity as to how to do it and take action. Right. And then finally, it's honestly like the coach can't will the client to make the change. Can't. That's like one of the hardest things, the most challenging things as a coach is that you can be so emotionally invested in your clients. You can give them everything, you can guide them, but you can't do the work. And so it's super hard to see the potential in somebody and they just aren't in that place to follow through. Right. Sometimes it is that you just need to do a little bit of personal growth for you to be able to make that change. And sometimes there's a time and a place. I know that in my journey, there is times and places where I was not ready to make change. Right. But I kept at it. I kept working on myself. And then finally I got myself into a position in my life that I could make that change as well. So that's a long spiel on that.
That was good.
That was good. Mhm.
Erica, do you have anything?
I don't think I have any other questions.
Yeah, that was good.
A lot of them.
Yeah, I think that's good. Is there anything else you wanted to share with us?
All I want to say is it was very lovely talking to you guys. I love these types of conversations. I love getting like really real about stuff. And by no means, guys, by no means am I a therapist. I'm not. I'm just a person that's screwed up a lot in my life. And I'm just really honest and open about it. And I'm pretty candor of a person. And I just, like I said this yesterday, but I always want to say this is that, especially when it comes to relationship with food, relationship with self, it's going to be healing. It's going to be healing. And trust me, I hate feelings. I hate that kind of stuff. I'm one of those people that likes to wake up and choose violence. I love doing it. But a lesson that I have recently learned, unfortunately, I'm 30 and I'm just learning this, is that suppressing your emotions and how you feel and just not facing it, it's not cool. It's not cool being that person that's like, I don't care how I feel, I'm just going to do it. It's not cool. You become like you turn into a 3-year-old in terms of emotional intelligence. And a lot of times the reasons why you're derailing yourself in life in general is because you are unable to process your emotions and deal with them. Emotional intelligence, having emotional intelligence is cool. So like face that, deal with that, figure out how you heal personally. I hope that some of the things that I have shared with you guys has been productive. Maybe take some of these tips that I've provided, but like, please understand that there's no one right way to heal. Ultimately, it's up to you to take that ownership and create that awareness and do the work. It's 100% worth it though. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
Awesome.
thank you.
Of course.
Thank you.
Of course,
We
guys.
appreciate your time.
Of course.
that's all that you
Anytime.
had to share.
Anytime. I love chatting with you guys.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to stop the recording right now.